So Rachel, thank you very much for joining us here for one of our Spark Innovation videos. Thank you so much for giving up the time, and we want to jump straight into the interview. And the first question that we've asked all of our contributors all the way through this campaign is, what is innovation to you?
So that's a really big question to start off with, but I think in a nutshell, it's finding new, more effective ways of doing the same things, but also perhaps using new opportunities to do completely different things. All of these are about adding value to customers. So in the context of this sector, it's not innovation for innovation's sake, but it's innovation that is genuinely going to add value for customers, either today or into the future. I think quite often when you say innovation, people think about new technology. They think about exciting new pieces of kit that could be used, for example, on their networks and alongside their old traditional assets. But I think we all increasingly now know that, of course, information technology is a huge enabler of innovation, and I think particularly when it comes to thinking about how customer service is provided, some of the basics around billing infrastructure and so on and so forth, and indeed how you might communicate with your customer base. There's some really exciting challenges and opportunities there using information technology. But I think for me, another element of innovation is actually in the realm of new commercial deals and new business models, which are quite often overlooked, partly because they're not as tangible perhaps as traditional new technology or even information technology. But the things that can perhaps be learned from other sectors, other industries, about how to structure deals, how to form partnerships in order to address the challenges that the sector have, I think are some really interesting and exciting opportunities for innovation just there. Certainly my own experience in the energy sector was that quite often where the innovation was lacking and needed most attention and encouragement actually from the regulator was in terms of new business models and new commercial arrangements, which needed much more attention than anything else.
Well, I think that's quite an interesting point where, so often the challenges that face a lot of sectors are quite similar, and potentially there's a good link there for just asking why in the context that the water sector is right now, there are challenges which are quite macroeconomic in terms of resilience, climate change, in terms of affordability and vulnerable customers. Why is innovation so important in that context?
Well, I think it's quite simple. These are really huge challenges. They're very exciting challenges, but they're also massive. And I think if your only toolkit that you're using to address them is the toolkit you've always had and always used, you are going to be missing out on phenomenal opportunities to address issues like affordability and resilience. And I'd be surprised if there's anyone in the sector who doesn't understand innately the value and the importance of looking to new tools and techniques to bring into the sector in order to address these challenges. Fundamentally, we know that the sector's reputation rests on it addressing and being seen to strive right to the limit to address these challenges. And so being seen to innovate, being seen to pick up new ideas, even if they don't work first time round, is actually a really valuable sign of a sector that's determined to grapple with the challenges, not just that Ofwat has set them, but fundamentally that government is expecting to be addressed as it's set out in its strategic policy statement to Ofwat.
So, Rachel, innovation can benefit a lot of people, but how can it tangibly benefit customers, the environment, and wider society, in your opinion?
Well, I don't want to prejudge exactly how it's going to work, because the exciting thing about innovation is it's organic, it's dynamic, and where it takes you can't always be known. But I think we know we've got a challenge for customers around affordability, for example, around resilience and reliability of supply. There's a lot that can be done there using new technology, new information technology. But there's also really big environmental challenges in the sector. The leakage in the sector, for example, is in and of itself an environmental challenge. And the use of new technologies to detect leakage, to prevent it, there have got to be lots of exciting opportunities there. I think as well, there's a rightful focus on affordability for individual bill payers, but fundamentally we also know that a sector that is efficient, that is using all of the learning, the tools and techniques from across other sectors to improve its performance will be good overall for productivity and for our economy as a whole. And all of that does rest on a sector with an open and an inquiring mind, willing to try out and find ways of using the new tools and techniques that it sees across the board.
I think, given those benefits, which I agree with completely, some people may ask, why does this need to happen now? Why is it important that water companies innovate now? What are the risks if they don't?
Well, I've already said I see innovation as an organic process. I think it's very rare that you can set out to use innovation to address a particular challenge and find that you've done it within a prescribed and predefined time frame and cost envelope. It's an iterative learning process. So in a sense, you cannot start too soon. It's also that there's an opportunities are being lost right now. There are future challenges, but there's real-term opportunities to give customers a better experience when they call up or have a query with their bill. There are here and now improvements that can be made, sometimes just by simple adoption of a new approach that might be business as usual somewhere else. I think as well, kind of beginning to create that frame of mind in the sector about looking outwards and keeping an open mind about new ways of doing things is a culture and a mindset that you want to grow and to keep reinforced, so that as new technologies come along, as new ways of doing things come along, you've already created a receptive environment in which the business can absorb those new tools and techniques and find good ways to put them to use.
Well, I think hopefully that touches on what we're kind of almost trying to do with this campaign, how it's sort of trying to inspire the sector to look beyond the traditional boundaries. But Rachel, we're very mindful of your time, so we have just one final question for you, which is, if you were to give one message to people who are innovating, your one key message, what would it be?
So I'm going to be cheeky and say I've got two, which is, in short, to really think carefully about the culture. How do you create a culture where it's fine to fail? It's fine to pick up a new piece of kit, a new piece of IT, or to explore a new commercial model. only to find that it doesn't quite work. So there's a really important culture piece, I think, that frankly Ofwat needs to take on board, but equally I think the sector needs to think about. Allied to culture, perhaps not quite as difficult to address, is the one of skills. This is not about parachuting in new bits of kit and then just thinking that automatically they will work. I think a lot of successful innovation that drives real improvements for customers, for the environment, for society, is very, very heavily dependent on having the right skills in the sector to make best use of those. So there's a big message from me about beginning to invest and build the skills in information technology, the new commercial skills you might need, the skills you might need if you're introducing new processes, internal business processes and so on, which may not already exist within the sector.
Well, I think that's an excellent message, and an excellent two messages that you can leave people with after this interview. So Rachel, thank you so much for giving up your time today and for being part of our Spark Innovation campaign.
Well, thank you, Freddie.